Okay, let's get started then. All right, we have participants. This is excellent. And let's just get the app up so we can get started. So we're going to run through invoicing and quoting. This is the stack in schedule flow, scheduling, mobile apps, timesheets, invoicing, and automation functionality. So we're going to focus on invoicing here, and let's get started. Can someone mute? I'm getting some background sound there. Excellent, excellent. Okay, let's jump in and let's create some invoices. So there's a few ways to do our invoicing. Sorry, Glenn, I just totally lost my page with my invoicing instructions on it. Let me just open this up. Here we go. These are the steps of things we're going to run through on how to invoice. So we're going to create an invoice. We're going to capture items on the invoice. We're going to just check our inventories right. We're going to create an invoice via a job and directly. We're going to create an invoice via the mobile app. We're just going to check invoice statuses. We're going to go sending an invoice and notes, and then we're going to do reporting on invoices, and then we're going to do the templates functionality. So let's get stuck into it. So creating an invoice is pretty straightforward. You can do it from coming into a job, entering in, so this is the basic job view in here. This is your customer information. This is your job information. Now the hours and products tab is where you enter the inventory items into a job. They're split into service items in here. So this is typically hours and service-based work, and then products, and this is products used. So I hit the add button, I can add a new product in here. I can enter the location of that product. So is it coming from a warehouse or one of my technicians in the field? So this is good for keeping track of stock which is used in a van. I can enter my quantity. That's my purchase price, and that helps me work out the profitability of different work I've got here. That's my sales price, and this is whether I've actually used this on the job or not. So let's go, and we've entered some items there. So now we can actually create any of the service statement documents. So we can do an invoice, a quote, a service report, or a purchase order. So this is obviously oriented for the scheduler. So let's just go in here and jump in. Create an invoice, just creating it for this job. So now one of the things which people often forget to do when creating invoices and haven't yet built into their workflow is just the invoice status. So it's really handy to use the invoice status because that allows you to bundle your invoices into their right groups. So if I have an approval process, I'm going to put the invoice into awaiting approval for a senior person to approve this invoice before it gets sent out. And if I've sent it, I'm going to put it to awaiting payment because I've actually sent it out to the customer. So if I just put it into awaiting approval, it's not going to be sent yet. I'm just going to review it. I can do internal notes. So, you know, follow up with this customer 1 week before invoice is due. That might be a note I want on the invoice, which appears to the customer, you know, please find your invoice. Any questions, please contact us straight away. This is reasonably straightforward. So if that's paid, due date, you can set the default due date in settings, and then that's the actual due date. These are my items. Now this is interesting. So I can go find another job. So I can go find another job in my system which has got some revenue on it, and I can add that to my invoice. So I've got multiple jobs now sitting on the one invoice, so I can build out my invoice with multiple jobs. But just say I want to add an item just to this invoice, I can add an item to this invoice without adding a job. So I can just go in, say it's such and such product description. So I can it's a widget. I'm going to go add a widget. I'm going to set my sales price. Customer never sees purchase price. I'm going to set my sales price there. So now I've built out my my invoice. there's a history there of actions done on the invoice and payments made on the invoice. I can do a payment on the invoice as well. So let's follow the full workflow through though. Let's go and create this invoice. So this invoice is created. Let's see what it would look like. So theoretically, from a workflow, say I'm not the approver. So I've just created that invoice, but say I am the approver and I want to go see what invoices I have to approve. So I click on statements up the top. I come through, I've got my bundles of invoices here. And this is my group of invoices which are awaiting approval, and I can see there's something in here I need to action. So I'm going to go in and edit this invoice. I'm going to have a look at the amounts and make sure all the items I need are on it. If I need to add an extra item, I can just add an extra item in here. So I might go add a miscellaneous. I've got about widget number 2. So I'm going to go add widget number 2. Price is the same. All right, I'm all happy with that invoice now. So now I'm just going to email it off to the customer. So this is my note to the customer. This is my invoice run. It's ready. Then these are my notes through to the customer, and then I'm going to send that invoice off. That invoice will get attached as a PDF to this email and will go off to the customer. So now I've sent that email. So the email's being sent. It's been flagged as sent. So that email's on its way. I'm going to change its status to now awaiting payment because it's gone off to the customer. So that's done. We can see that my invoice is now moved into this bundle and it's sitting there awaiting payment by the customer. So a week's passed and I might want to follow up with that user, or I'm just going to come in now and check that that's been paid. So I could come in here and I could say, actually, it's been paid in full. I could enter a payment event in here and I can say, look, there was a payment made on this. So the payment amount was the full payment amount. So it's 1837 has been paid. Payment method was credit card, and I could just add that payment transaction in there. So owing amount now is 0. So that's a fully paid up invoice and we're happy campers. I can now actually generate a payment tax invoice now to say that invoice has been fully paid. So I can come through there and say amount owing is 0. So that's a full invoice workflow there. Now let's just jump into here and see what we're going to talk about now. Right, so say I wanted to do an invoice from a mobile app. So I've got a technician in the field and they are going to create the invoice. So I'm logged in here as Paul Webinar. So I'm going to pretend I'm the technician. I'm just going to put this job into a status of scheduled. And now I'm going to jump into the mobile app. So let's just go through and jump through to the mobile app. Today, I've got a job today. It's scheduled. I'm going to jump in. I can see that some hours and products have been built because this job's a fixed price job and it's ready to go. I could add some additional hours if I needed to for that. So I could come in here and I could go add some additional hours. So I could come in here. It's automatically defaulted open for the search because we hid that for a while. But anyway, this is a much faster workflow. So I could come in here and type MISC. I can do my search. So this can be on a tablet or whatever. I can find my stuff straight away. So that will be faster to choose your inventory item. I can go through and enter my quantity in here. It's been used. We can hide this information if you don't want the technician to have to worry about the pricing information. And now I can just add that item to my job. So now I want to build an invoice. I'm going to go up and I'm going to add an invoice for this technician. This technician's in the field and they're going to go and create their own invoice. So they've come through here and they're going to go and create an invoice. They're going to set the status of the invoice to awaiting payment because they're actually going to come through and they're going to send that invoice. So I'm just going to email this invoice off to the customer. These are my notes. Hi Bruce. Let's get this invoice out to you. So that invoice is now going to be sent off to that customer. So that's done. That invoice is off. It's out. That's the amount owing. Now I could also take a payment in the field as well. So if I wanted to take a payment, I can come into payment details in here. I'm just going to hide that for a sec. Going to go into payment details and I can add a new payment in here. So the amount owing is $9.90. I can come in and say, yep, $9.90 is the amount owing. The payment date's today. The payment method was cash and add payment. So now I've tracked my payment option amount, the amount's owing. I could actually send that now to the customer to say, look, hi, thanks, is paid in full now. So that's an attachment of that PDF with amount owing being 0. So that's a fully paid off invoice. That's done. As a technician, then I would probably go through and just change my my job to a status of completed, or we could actually have a new status in there called invoiced if you wanted. Its statuses are completely flexible. So jumping back to the scheduler view of the world, I can come in and I can look at my statements here, and I can see that my invoice now has been moved through to, actually, maybe I forgot to change the status. My invoice has been moved through to paid in full. So do it. So now I'll have 2 paid. Oh, I had 2 in there. So yep. So the one I did from the driver app was already there. I just added another one. So now they're both in there, paid in full. So I can see the totals of invoices I've had paid in full. I can do some searching on these paid in full invoices. So I can search by invoice number, the invoice date, yeah, so I can keep track of invoices I want to follow up on. Now the quote workflow is, so let me just jump through the statuses for a second. So let's just jump through here and let's have a look at our invoice statuses. So let's just go through to our invoice statuses here. So our invoice statuses here are draft, which I've just created, haven't sent it, awaiting approval, awaiting payment. So it's been sent to the customer, partially paid or fully paid. And yeah, that's those bundles we had a look at before. And same with the quote statuses, draft, awaiting acceptance, really good way to keep track of all of your outstanding quotes and following up on those and make sure that they've been followed up on. And then you don't want anything sitting in there which isn't either accepted or declined or in a bucket, but you want them all actioned, right? You don't want just stuff sitting there and awaiting acceptance, which is really old. That's not a good thing to do. All right, so that's our quote statuses, that's quote statuses, invoice statuses. So the documents we have are invoice, quote. These are our quote status bundles here. We can see we've got a quote in here. A quote is very similar in an invoice structure. It's got a status here. I can say I've created my quote. I want to send it out to a customer. I hit the email quote. That goes out to a customer there. That's now been sent, so I know that's been sent to the customer, and I'm going to move that to a status of awaiting acceptance. The reason we make these manually is you could also download a PDF and email the PDF yourself, and then you just want to update that to say that that's ready to go. So that quote's done. Internal notes, that's all good. So it's awaiting acceptance. So I'm going to close that. And then if I just want to keep track of my quotes, I click on statements at the top, I click on quotes, and I can see my quotes are sitting here in the awaiting acceptance workflow. So there's a history of my quotes. This is probably worth having a little look at. So the purchases are tax inclusive or tax exclusive. So that means when I enter in these sales amounts here, have I already added tax or not? So if it's tax exclusive, that means that tax hasn't been added. If it's tax inclusive, it means tax has been added. So then when we come through and we look at that amount there, we can see that the tax will be added. So tax exclusive, so we're going to add the tax amount there. So these are both tax exclusive amounts. So if I make it tax inclusive, we can see down here that that's tax inclusive of those sales amounts. So let's just go through and look at our actions. We've created them from the mobile app. Yeah, let's have a look at our templates. So let's have a look at, say we wanted to customize our templates. Let's go through and have a look at how we would change the layout of one of our invoices. So if we come through and have a look at one of our invoices now, we've got this invoice sitting up here. This is one of our invoices in here. Say we wanted to hide the price and we just wanted a description and a quantity there and the total showing at the bottom. That's a really common scenario. So we would go into settings, we go into templates, we come down here and we would set up, say, let's hide the price and hide the totals in there. We could set in some extra information here. Say we wanted to add the job notes, we could go job notes in here and we could use the placeholder here to go job notes. And then we can add any information from the job which is stored in these placeholders can be put into our template. There's also some formatting we can do in here. If we want something bold, there's a little bit of formatting we can do here. It's really worth having a chat to Richard about how to do that, because I don't really know exactly how those magic little strings, but you can do some styling in there just to make things look a little bit prettier for you. But the key thing is to get the right information in the right place. There we go. So now pricing's hidden and we're just showing the total. So if we go back and look at that same invoice we just looked at, oh, if I wanted to update my logo, I can update my logo here. But let's just go have a look at that invoice we created over here. So come down here and here's our invoice down here. We do PDF. We can now see that we're not showing that price information. We're just showing the quantity and the amount in there. So that's the invoicing workflows. So we've gone through the basic flows for invoices and quotes. If anyone has any questions, just type them in. That would be cool. I think that's the gist of the invoicing flow. We're going to record this and we can send this out to you. So if you want a recording of any of our webinars, just send an email to info@scheduleflow.com and we'll send you out any of these recordings at any time. Yeah, so because we cover the whole range of functionality in our recording. So scheduling, the mobile apps, timesheets, automation. So any of these, we'll have webinars for each of these, and you can just request any of those webinars. So I'm just going to check to see if there's any questions. Oh, here's a question here. Can I send my invoice to my accounting package? Yeah, so that's a good question. So if you want to integrate through to accounting packages, the two direct integrations we have is Xero and MyOb. So you can just enable that. You need to log in for Xero, and once that's enabled, you can then come through to statements, and there will be an export to Xero option here. You just select the invoices you want, you go export to Xero, and those invoices with their line items will be sent through to Xero. Likewise with MyOb. With MyOb, you need 2 passwords. You need the MyOb web password, and then you need the password for each of your different accounts. So that's pretty straightforward. Also, if you have QuickBooks, we're working on that this year. That should be done by Christmas. And there's an integrating product called Sasant, which you can use to glue schedule flow to QuickBooks. So let's just see if we've got some more questions in here. Some great questions. Slow down. Oh, I'm going too fast. Yeah, I need a slow version. All right, I'll remember that, Glenn. Thank you very much. That's I know you guys' time is so important, but I really must slow down. Yeah, I get a bit excited when I'm doing a webinar. How to keep track of any quotes I've sent. So that's another great question. So if I want to come in here, I'm click on statements. I'm slowing down now. I'm click on quote, and these are the statuses of my different quotes. So these are my buckets of quotes. So awaiting acceptance. So that quote's been sent, and I can jump in here and I can see when it was sent. So if I just jump into history, I should be able to see it was set to awaiting acceptance on the 16th. So I know that I need to give them a little nudge. Well, wouldn't really, because it's the same day, but in a future day, I'd give them a call, say, hey, look, have you got that quote? They say, I need another copy, so I could email it off to them again. And if they accept it, then I can come in and say, hey, look, they accepted it on this date. So yeah, I can keep track of my quote workflows this way. Just another question. So I have flexibility as to whether I allow the tech in the field the ability to generate quotes or invoice. Yeah, that's right. So that's a good question. So how would we do that? So you can actually do that by going into settings, MISC, and I can set the authority level for my technicians. Can they do quotes? Can they do quotes and invoices? So I can set that down here in MISC settings as to whether they can create quotes or not. I'm logged in as a scheduler, so I can actually do everything as a scheduler. But if I was just in the technician role, so if my staff setting was just in the technician role here, so if I was a staff member and I was not also a scheduler, but I was just a technician, so if I'm in settings staff, if I was just a technician, then these settings apply to me. So I can say, hey, look, you can send a quote, but you can't send an invoice. And then I can hide pricing information from you as well. So if I didn't want you to see pricing information, I could hide that pricing information from the technicians, but they can still create quotes and invoices. So then I'll just go down here and I would save that. Obviously, they will see the PDF of the invoice, so they can see some in there, but not the individual line items. If we've hid the individual line item pricings, they just see the total. And that's if you let them create the invoices. Often the invoices are reviewed back in the office, and that's how they're managed. All right, I think that's good. I think, again, I've just got to write a big note for myself to slow down. Any questions, please send us questions to info@scheduleflow.com. Any problems, send an email to support@scheduleflow.com. And don't forget, there's this great little chat option down here where you can ask questions directly to our wonderful customer success team down there, who will help you get onboarded. So yeah, that's invoicing and quotes. We've covered that off. We're going to do this recording and send it out to everyone so they can slow down my fast recording. And that's invoicing and quoting. Oh, I'll just mention one other thing really quickly. So there are other statement types we can do. So there's invoices, quotes. You can also come through and do purchase orders, and that's the same flow. You can get a technician to create a purchase order. You can approve it in the office and send it off to your suppliers, which can be set up in accounts. Suppliers, you can do reports. So you could do a SWIMS report in here, or you could do a JSA in here. And these are, again, customized in settings, so we can customize the templates for those 4 different document types. We're working on a new feature now to give you an unlimited number of templates, and that should be released in a couple of weeks. So you'll be able to do a style for SWIMS, you'll be able to do a style for a service report for a customer. Yeah, absolutely, that's going to be fantastic. Yeah, all right. I think that's a wrap, everyone. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time, and I hope you get value out of this, and look forward to talking to you soon.